Hey everyone, welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is a series where I get to talk a little bit about and touch base upon various mythological beasts, beings, and the like, pulled from lore worldwide. And I always preface by saying that I am not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything, I do apologize in advance. And today I wanted to talk about a mythological creature that comes from predominantly Estonian mythology, though there are other regions that have very similar myths and legends about this variations of this creature, which I'll touch base upon in a moment. But going back to the Estonian myth, there is a creature called the Kratt. Now, again, having such a wide range of peoples and beliefs and regions that talk about it, there are various spellings that are fairly dramatically different, including the Puik, the Pisuhand, the Tulahand, the Vidaja. Hopefully I'm pronouncing any of these correct, and those are again all the Estonian side. There is actually an Estonian-Swedish name for it, and this is the Skrat. And when you start branching beyond the Estonia populations into that of Finnish myth, it's popular there and has the names Kratti or Erani. And there are even variations that are arguably similar from the Germanic and Slavic side called Skrat, spelled very differently, based on the fact of region and personality aspects. Sometimes there are certain people who also compare it to some of the Nordic creatures like Nordic gnomes and rites. But outside that, we're going to go back to Estonia and talk about the Kratt proper for a moment. And this is essentially viewed in a couple different ways. Some people talk about it as a treasure-bearing entity for certain reasons, and essentially it's a created creature. And how you create it is someone who wants or has a need, usually a darker need for an assistant. They form the Kratt out of either a mound of hay or utilizing household implements to create this body that will become the Kratt. And thereupon they have to make a deal with the devil and give 3 drops of blood in order to bring life to the Kratt itself. Now, once the Kratt takes life, it will do anything and everything that its master asks and demands for it. And it will, so it's pretty much this entity, and it kind of serves as servant. But why is it associated with the treasure bearer? Is more often than not the master of the Kratt will use it to steal things for him or herself, or ask it to bring various goods and wealth to the master. Now, there's a catch, and I love the catch, because you have this creature that will do anything. This manifested, almost golem-like creature in some ways that was designed to serve its master. It can also fly, so it has some magical abilities and capabilities in itself. But if it ever does not actively have some task, some feat that it needs to accomplish in hand, then problems happen. Then it is known, these creatures are known to turn against their masters and be very dangerous and hostile and violent towards them. So if ever the master is done utilizing the Kratt for whatever purposes they wanted, one way to get around the fact that the Kratt has to be doing something all the time is to ask this created, manifested creature to try to fulfill an impossible task. One example of these tasks that I read about was to create and build a ladder out of bread. Obviously, even if you're able to bake a piece of bread and make it long enough to be some kind of ladder, at least in look, it's not going to hold the weight of a person. So it's something that will always fail. And if there is an impossible task that the Kratt is, of course, unable to fulfill in a certain amount of time, they're known to combust. Mainly because, again, they're associated with being made of either entirely or at least partly of hay. So that part's known to burst into flame and, again, spontaneously combust if they're just unable to fulfill a task in a certain time, though the time frame was not necessarily disclosed. So that's essentially, in the nutshell, what the Estonian version of the Kratt is. Now, going over to Finland, like I said, there's their variant of the Kratt called the Kratti or the Arani. And in those versions, the Kratti is, or at least was written to be this false god and worshipped as a false god, where this particular entity was viewed to rule over buried treasure. So still getting back to the idea of being a treasure bearer, either through theft and burglary, or the fact that they just are inherently these creatures that know where buried treasure are, and if a person offers sacrifices and, you know, gets in the good favor of the Kratti may show them where treasure chests or could be found below the surface of water or the land. Then again, if you displease the Kratti and they just decide, no, I'm not really your fan again, they'll go back and re-hide the treasure so you can't find it again. So that's the Finnish version of this creature. But either way, that is the Kratti. And I thought this was a really fun one because I do like the catch. I like the fact that it is a creature that is made for a purpose. If it doesn't have a purpose, it'll turn hostile. And so to get around it, you have to give it some impossible feat in order to kind of get around the whole fact that it could turn against you. If you have any questions about this or anything else, please post them in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social media. And until next time, everyone, skål.